So this part of the process, the investment, is really the integral part, isn't it? And it's almost what makes or breaks the project. And I guess it's where it can also fall flat. So if you look at the pitch, is there sort of a guideline that people can look at before they even proceed?
Yes, I would say that when you look at the pitch is only one part. There's actually three parts. There's the preparation of the pitch, there's the actual pitch itself, and then the follow-up afterwards. In fact, the preparation is almost as important as the pitch. In fact, it's more important. If you do your preparation properly, your pitch will become very, very easier.
Okay, so take us through, break it down for us. So let's go to preparation. What do you do first?
What you do in preparation, first of all, you must look at your product, your marketability of your product. You first of all ask yourself, do I have a product? In other words, you look at the features, the function of the product, and the benefits. Secondly, you ask, is there a market? Do I have a market? You need to look at the need, the pain, the job that needs to be done, and the wants that the people want. Thirdly,
Hold on, I just want to stop you there. So how do you go about that actually? Do you get an independent body to do the research for you, or how do you know that your product is actually marketable?
No, look, that is what you have to look at. What we do is we believe that when you invent a product, you should be steep in that market. You should have a thorough understanding, and a lot of bad products get invented because people do not understand the market. So this is not like a one-time thing with this morning you wake up and you invent a product. Usually what happens, you are steep in the product over years and you understand that market. So basically you need to ask yourself, is there a market there? And you would have to have, based on your experience and the knowledge of yourself, you will know either whether the market is there or not. So you need to ask that question, and you have to see whether the product that you've got represents a value proposition. What you've got is the value proposition unique and distinctive. You need to see whether that is. So that is, you look at the product, the market. You also need to look at the competitive situation. Who's the competitors? You must know the competitors. What is done? Do you have a relative advantage? Can you compete with them? That's the question. Then you need to look at the intellectual property. The reason you look at intellectual property is you do not want to infringe products. So you need to do that homework, because that's what the investor or people or you're probably going to license to is going to ask you. You don't want to infringe people, but on the other hand, you also want to have protection. And then you must make sure before you pitch a product, you basically want to file a provisional patent. That's also so
right.
So then once you've done that sort of a work, the next thing that you need to do is you need to go and look at your resources. You know, listen, what sort of money have I got? How much time have I got? How much intellectual property? What is my network? And so on. And the reason why this, you need to determine what is your route. You as the inventor, what is your route to market? Now, there's basically three routes. You either basically license your product to someone, or you basically...
To produce it on your behalf?
On your behalf. Means licensing, you allow them to... And for that, you must have intellectual property like patents and trademarks and trade secrets and so on. So the other way is basically you can venture yourself, of course, and then you can go into partnership of the person. So once you've decided on the route to market, let us assume you've decided on licensing. The next thing that you have to do in your preparation is you need to go and look at your product readiness. Do you have a product? Is your product ready? Now, what do you actually go and present? A lot of people try to present an idea. Idea's got a limited value. As the idea, you need to embody that idea, because for a product, before a product, an idea become an invention, it has to go through 6 stages. The product idea has to be developed, it has to be industrialized, it must be manufactured, marketed, and then be used. There's the 6 stages. So the further it moves down the value circle, the more value it adds. So what you need to do is, you take the product, the first stage, the idea needs to be embodied into an experimental, what we call experimental prototype.
Like a prototype,
Something
to show.
There's lots of different prototypes, but this particular prototype, you just want to make sure it works. It's rough and ready, inexpensive. But that is not good enough. You can't present that. You move it further to what they call a fully functional prototype. That's one which you can actually give to a third party. They can get on the machine as safe and the user interface is right. And then you file, of course, a provisional patent. And then you need, the last thing you have to do is then, of course, you then go and look at your manufacturability. And because your investor will ask you, what is your cost of goods? You're not going to manufacture now. You need to go and check the estimated cost, how much will it cost to tool up for the product, and how long it will take probably to get the thing done. And then the last thing you have to do, you now have to go and identify, and that is probably the most important stage. No matter you've got the greatest product and you present it to the wrong people, you must find and do your homework. Do your research and find out who is the right person that matches, that matches my product. And you need to do your homework, not what they say. Go and look at the track record, look at the market penetration, look at the products that they've done, and then select this number one. You don't
whether it falls within their strategy, because a lot of investors, we had the IDC on, for example, the other day, and there's specific strategies, and this is what they, would look at.
Indeed, but I'm also talking about not only investors, I'm also talking about people that's interested in licensing your product. The pitch is basically the same. So what you do is you need to find the right people, because you can't have a product that requires a lot of promotion, and you're going to sell to a product to a company that has only got interest in retail distribution. You need to find the right. So once you find the right person, of the right company, and you must make sure of that. You need to obviously make you have to make the appointment, and that's really sometimes a difficult thing. And but the suggestion there is you must make sure. I don't like to go and do cold calling. It's very, very difficult because usually they ask you to send the product, and so what you need to do is
a proposal or whatever. You kind of want to get in the door and have a meeting.
We do not try to do that. It's a last resort. You need to try to get introduction, or you need to network, or you need to try to meet the person before the time. You then pick up the phone call and you then do what you call the elevator speech. They're very, very simple. You introduce yourself to the person, your company, you tell him what your product is, what the category, what class it is, the name of the product. You tell him basically what is your target market where the product goes, what the problem in the market is, how your solution is, and what your product, how your product compares to a competitive product. You then provide some testimonials if you have any awards or any testimonials you've got you presented, and if you've got intellectual property. And usually what I used to say, if I do a long distance call, I would say, look, I'm so confident about this product. And usually these guys are busy, and especially the bigger companies which has got lots of people that come to them. The competition is very hard and it's very difficult to get an appointment. But I would say, look, I'm prepared to fly halfway around the world. If you can give me a half an hour, and let's make it an hour of your time, and I will come present, because I'm so confident that I can show you how this product, and I'm so confident it will become the #1 selling category in the world for this product. Just give me half an hour. And usually the person would give me an hour or half an hour of this time. But then you need to follow it up.
Right.
And you need to see who's going to be the meeting, because you don't want to fly around the world and you find that the tea lady and the gardeners, and you want to have the key decision makers. Now, if you cannot get the appointment, and you must work very hard to get the appointment, then and they ask you to send things, make sure that usually we would follow up to send them a non-disclosure agreement before the time, and I would then send a proper information to him. I would prepare the information properly, and I would try to make a short little video. And that is basically, now I'm ready for my preparation, and that is up to that point.
It sounds costly, and it sounds like it takes a lot of time. I mean, does it really?
Oh, it's absolutely, but you can't do it. But now when you're prepared...
But you can't do it without that.
You have to do that. So you've done your homework there, you've got the appointment. Now the next thing is you're going to go on a presentation. You arrive there, make sure you arrive well in time. Go to the venue, make sure everything is ready, and one important, especially if you've got prototypes and samples. So often, and this happened myself, where I arrived with a boardroom of 20 people, and I didn't check my sample because it was too late, and the thing breaks in front of those 20 people, and I flew halfway in the world, and I've ended up my backside on the floor. It was absolutely totally embarrassing, but it happened. Make sure that you check your equipment out, and I cover my equipment, because I don't want, when people come for the appointment, for the presentation, I don't want them to start fiddling around with the product. I cover my product, I make sure it's the central stage, and then of course, I thank them for appointment. They allow me then to talk. I then briefly introduce myself again, and I do again the elevator speech. I tell them briefly, what my product is, what is the problem, what is the solution, and then I would say to them, I'd like to briefly demonstrate and promote the product to you, and then I believe show and tell. It's far, far more convincing to show and tell. But before I demonstrate the product, very, very important, that is a prototype. I told them that it's a prototype. But what they must remember, and I usually, before I come, I prepared a stylized rendering of what the product could be. I show them, this is what the product could look like in the end. Remember, this is a prototype. It works well, but this is what it could look like styling. Then I demonstrate the product, and I follow them in a very simple sequence. I said, what is the features? In other words, what it's got, how does it work, the functionality of the product, and what is the benefits of the product, and then thirdly, how does it compare, what is the advantage relative?
Willie, it seems like you can do this with your eyes closed, because I think you've done it more than once. But I just want to touch on, before we go, because we're running out of time, our next segment, we're looking at pool innovation. Now, I know South Africans, it was a South African that invented the creepy crawly.
Yes.
And we haven't stopped as South Africans inventing pool inventions. So why is that?
I would say there's at least two reasons. Humans are naturally responsive to problems and challenges. And what happens that Africa has got a lot of pools because of our geographical situation. Right. So a lot of people is exposed to to pools. And that is one of the reasons why people actually come up with these type of, so there's so many inventors.
There's a demand for
what happens, you don't find an Eskimo, many Eskimos inventing pool cleaners, rather knows South African inventing sort of ways to build the igloos. In Europe, for example, you find a huge number of skiing machines. In China, you find a huge number of rice cookers. So it's got a lot to do. What happens is need and constraints usually force creativity.
Excellent, we'll take it. Thanks, Willem van Straaten. Nice to see you again.